Let's go and see Hokum. My expectations going into this are it's gonna be a movie. I've heard that I don't know if it's the same people that did Occult. Is that what it was called? Or people are saying it's similar to it. I don't know. I've been hearing something like that. And I feel like I'm getting the name wrong. Oculus. I remember watching it and people were like, oh my God, it's so good. And I'm like, it's average. Like, I've seen stuff like this before. It wasn't bad, but it's not anything that I would rewatch. And so I'm kind of just expecting, like, my expectations are like mid-level or low. I know it's supposed to be a witch movie in Ireland, which witches in Ireland love. So, and then the lead guy, I guess, is starting to garner a reputation as a scream king of sorts. So I am like, I don't know. I was like, my birthday's in a couple days, treat myself to a movie. Not like I have time. I'm supposed to be moving in 3 weeks, but that's fine. Cause I'm out this way and like it's right next to the place I get cupcakes. So I'm gonna get like birthday cupcakes for me and my kid. And there's also a really good barbecue place around here. So I'm gonna go get some barbecue after this. But let's see if this is any good. All right, wasn't bad. More on that later, but first. Oh yeah. So they have got really good brownies. And so this one kind of looks like a cosmic karma, or cosmic brownie. You know, those Little Debbie's cosmic brownies, except for this one is so much better. They do brownies really well. And I know Viv, my 6-year-old, is gonna love to help me eat that. I mean, it's pretty big. All right, as for the cupcakes, had to get my girl to Midnight Magics because I'm not gonna have mine until my actual birthday on Tuesday, but I'm not gonna leave the house after today for like, I don't know, like until Wednesday. Today is Saturday for reference. So, not having to leave the house on Tuesday is another birthday present for myself, but I want Viv to be able to have one of these today, and then I got her one for my actual birthday so we can celebrate together. And then for me, they have a birthday cupcake, but I was just really feeling the red velvet. You know, I'm a proper Southern gal. Ooh, bonus dessert. Yes, bonus birthday dessert. Actually, I'm gonna wind up probably splitting this with my kid because my girl, she knows about dessert. She is her mother's daughter. I'm at this place called Hogwood Barbecue. They're out in the burbs, the Nashville burbs. And I do not recall, I haven't been here in a little while, but when I came here, I don't think they had this. They had like, I remember having like a really small pie. And I don't know if it was a smaller version of this or if it was something different, but when I went to get my online order, good on them, they had these right up front and like, I went and got so many boxes from Lowe's. They almost did me in. I got a like big paper cut on my finger, but look at this, pour over mac and cheese. And then I got these icebox pickles, which is basically like a cucumber salad to go on my chicken sandwich. Yes. It is the next day and I am tired. This move is going to kill me. We are just doing a local move. We're like out in the Nashville suburbs right now, and then we're going to be moving into the city. So I'm quite low energy, but I really wanted to talk about this movie because I had low expectations going in, low to mid expectations going in, because I know that the actor who's the lead in this movie does a good job in things. So I at least had mid-level expectations, and I was just really in the mood to see a movie. My birthday is in a couple days, and I hadn't been in the theater in a little while, and I was like, be nice to just do a little solo movie date for myself. And I do that a lot, where Saturdays is my day where I kind of like go run some errands, and then I'll pop into a movie if there's something that I'm hearing some buzz about and I don't want to wait to have to watch it at home. So I do love a horror movie set in another country. I feel like just gives it this different feel, exposes you to different stories, folk tales from other countries, which I love a lot. And I really feel like there should be more of that, representing more countries. Ireland is kind of like, I don't know, when you hear about creepy tales, it's kind of one of the ones that you hear about sometimes. But being in America, I still don't hear about that as much as obviously American horror stories. So I think I have some Irish lineage too. So it's a really cool country. Kind of has this mythical, magical, like air or reputation about it. But we should do that for more countries, I think, for sure. You know, I like to see that instead of all the remakes that we constantly do, even though I always watch them with everybody else. But it's just nice to see something different. I say different. It's different and yet the same. The story is at least original, which is nice. And it kind of reminds me of in the mid 2000s when they were doing all the J horror. That was a really cool trend where, well, they had Japanese horror movies and then America was remaking them all. But even the American remakes I liked. What I need to do, I need to go back and watch the Japanese horror movies and not just the American remakes like The Ring and for the other ones, The Grudge. Those were based off of Japanese horror movies. So I saw the American version. I need to actually go and watch the originals. But I remember, I mean, I was like 18, 19, I think, when those came out, and it was just, you know, being a horror movie lover, I was all into that. So we have this Irish witch movie, also Haunted Hotel Story, which both are classics and both have been done in different ways, but at its core, it is a witch movie, a haunted hotel movie, and I do like the combining of two classic themes. And what's cool is your expectations of the good and the bad people get switched around at some point. And I feel like the pacing and the twists were really great in this movie. It made sense, pretty solid overall. And I think the movie seemed to do everything right, the way that you would expect in a good horror movie. And even though witch movies, haunted house movies are a tried and true theme, the story was original, which I appreciated. And I was thinking of the movies that I've seen recently, the horror movies that I've seen recently. So Weapons also was a witch movie, but a very different story. Same thing with Longlegs. And I'm excited to see, well, wait, they might be doing a sequel or a prequel to Longlegs, and I did just see that they've confirmed that they're going to be doing the prequel to Weapons, which is, they're calling it Gladys. I don't know if it's going to be based on Gladys. I don't know if when it comes out it's going to be called Gladys, but that's what everybody's calling it. Those were witch movies, but wildly different stories. But it's just cool that you can take a theme and build on it however you want to and make a completely original story. We need to see more of that for sure. So Adam Scott is now being called a horror king, and I had seen him in Krampus, and I know that he had did the monkey, but I had just seen clips from the monkey. My husband put it on and he did not like it, but I was seeing clips of it and I didn't think it looked bad. But then I was at a hair appointment talking to the hairstylist about it, and then another hairstylist next to us was asking what we were talking about, and she said she didn't like the monkey either. So I can't really speak on if the monkey is any good or not, but the clips that I saw were intriguing to me, and I may or may not watch that like from start to finish in the future. But I did really like Krampus, and oddly enough, my husband, who is not a horror movie fan, likes Krampus, and every Christmas he tries to put it on. I say try because he tries to get our kid to watch it. It's so funny. Like in years past, I jokingly, like, I don't lay on the Krampus theme too heavy, but like in years past, like I would joke with her that I would hear kids down the street getting taken by Krampus. It's just fun. But that was actually a pretty good movie, and I know he was in that. So Krampus and Clips from the Monkey are kind of the only movies that I knew that were horror that Adam Scott had been in. And then I did a little bit of research, and all these articles are talking about how in the very, I think it was like maybe the second movie that he did Hellraiser Bloodline. And he said that he didn't see any Hellraiser movies before. He just took the movie for a job, which makes sense. I know that when actors are starting out, they take whatever they can get, and they're not necessarily fans of, if they get a part in a franchise, they're not necessarily fans or have even seen the movies before, and he was neither. He had never seen them and wasn't a fan. Which, if you haven't seen them, you wouldn't have been a fan. I'm tired. So he said that he doesn't do horror for the love of horror. The movie has to be a good movie first, and then a horror movie second, which I respect that. He just wants to be in good movies, but I have been a horror fan since I was 5 years old, so I am I have a big affinity for the genre, obviously. And then he's got an upcoming movie called Whisperman, The Whisperman. It's got Michael Keaton, which is my favorite Batman forever and ever and ever. Hamish Linklater, Midnight Mass, which was a really good show. John Carroll Lynch, he played Twisty the Clown. He was also in Gothica, and I think there were a couple other ones. But just the other people in the cast, that sounds amazing. I will be watching that. So, was very, very pleasantly surprised with this, and it was a fun little afternoon horror movie for me. Totally worth it. And anytime I see a new horror movie, I always compare it to this newer horror movie that I saw that completely blew me away. I went to the theater with no to low expectations. I was slightly intrigued by the trailer that I saw. It didn't give you too much, but I went to go see Night House maybe 5 years ago now. And in the theaters, I was just like, I was completely blown away. I love that movie, and that is a movie that I will rewatch. The atmosphere of that movie, the acting, the story, the twist at the end. It became an instant favorite. So anytime I watch anything new, I kind of compare it to that. And so this movie, while it was good on the first watch, talking about Hokum, it's not one that I would rewatch. Doesn't mean that it's bad. It was like a good one and done. Like, okay, that was good. We can move on, kind of a thing. So I had some thoughts. Here are some spoiler thoughts. So in the beginning of the movie, that was rough. So that opening scene, like anything having to do with kids and violence, I was sitting in my seat and I was just like waiting for it to be over. But then you find out he's a writer. He's trying to find an ending to his latest book. He's got writer's block, and then he goes to Ireland. And at first, maybe given his age, because he's not super young, he's not super old, but initially
when he was writing, I thought he saw like a kid ghost shadow on the stairs, and I thought that he had like his wife and kid die with the ashes, even though it said mom and dad or whatever. But it's actually his parents, and he goes to Ireland to scatter his parents' ashes. And then as he's checking in, the creepy old owner is sitting in the lobby telling witch stories to kids. And thinking back on that, I'm like, he's telling this story. He has to know that the witch is down there. And then my initial hypothesis was that they're like working with the witch and they have to give the witch sacrifices to operate their hotel. That was my first guess. But the background of all of that is not really explored. And so I was kind of like trying to think in my head about like, what did they know? What was the purpose? What was the witch there for? And then before you find out why the title character, Adam Scott's character, is so angry, it was like off-putting and uncomfortable. I was like, dang, why is he so mean? But then when you find out, that's kind of the first twist that I remember in the movie, because when he is talking about why he's in Ireland scattering his parents' ashes, you find out that his mom had been shot and killed by a kid that was too young to go to jail. And then you find out that the kid was him and it was an accident. I was like, and that's another thing too, that's like kind of thinking back to the beginning of the movie with the violence with kids. Gun violence in kids is something that as a parent you are absolutely terrified of. You know, you don't want your kid to go into anybody's house because you don't know what they have in their house. Like, kids get a hold of things and accidents can happen. And that was just that storyline really like struck me. It was very, very sad. And so then his attitude towards everybody made complete sense. But my favorite character was Jerry, and the way that Ohm came across Jerry in the woods when he's drinking his mushroom milk was so, like, he just is so harmless, and like he's the character type that is always around. He knows everybody and everything that goes on. And he's the typical underdog, heroic character who helps move the story of the main character along, but then he doesn't make it to the end. And his end made sense because he just wanted to go be with his wife who had died previously. And so I felt like his death made sense for him. And then you get deeper into the story, you know, you get more mystery when you combine real life human horror with the good guy, who seemingly is the good guy, winds up actually being the bad guy. And it's this same trope you find often where it's like, this guy's having an affair with a younger woman, she gets pregnant, but he's married, maybe has kids of his own, and then he has no choice but to get rid of her. And so I'm guessing that's why people were comparing it to Oculus, because I saw that movie once and wasn't too impressed. Like, I didn't think it was horrible, but I think that there was infidelity and murder in that one too. So I'm guessing that's why people were drawing the comparisons between the two. And then the witch is real, but I guess we're meant to believe that, you know, only people that are under the influence of like alcohol or mushroom milk can see the witch. But the way that they did the witch, you know, with her coming out of the darkness, and then when she finally comes up the dumbwaiter, and the way that she moves and everything, they made her very creepy. It was very, very effective. But the witch down in the basement behind this door where she takes all of her captured souls, there's a lot down there. And the way that she puts you in chains definitely reminded me of Krampus, because if I I've seen the Krampus a couple times, and if I remember correctly, doesn't he come with chains? Or like his little minions have chains? I feel like there's chains when it comes to the Krampus. So I felt like this witch was similar to the Krampus. And it made me think of, I have this book of Yuletide monsters. And so most people know about the Krampus, but there's other ones. And that's what this witch reminded me of. I think witches can be portrayed in different ways. And this witch reminded me of Krampus and like the Yuletide monsters. Really cool spirits that apparently are more prevalent in Europe, I believe. And I would love more of these types of movies. When they came out with Krampus, I was like, why are there not more Krampus movies or just Yuletide monster movies in general? Because we need it. Like this past Christmas, inspired by Black Christmas that I saw a year or two ago for the first time. Not my fault. I should have seen it way earlier than that. But in my defense, 20 years ago, I saw the remake first in theaters and it was terrible. And it made me think that the original had to have been just as bad, but I was wrong. I was wrong. Black Christmas is a perfect movie. So for whatever reason, I decided to watch it a year or two ago, the original one. And this past Christmas, I was like, okay, I did that. Maybe I can find some other Christmas gems. Because for whatever reason, holiday horror never really spoke to me. But I'm getting more into it. Same thing with like Evil Dead movies. They're coming out with another one. And I did see Evil Dead Rise and I really liked that one. There are certain franchises or genres that as a horror fan, I am sad to say I have not explored and I need to. But this past Christmas, I watched a couple other Christmas horror movies. They were not great, but just given how old they were, like, I don't know. I just love old movies and especially old horror. And I feel like even if it's not good, it's kind of good just because I like movies from those times, like the 80s and older. I also watched My Bloody Valentine this year for the first time. Not a good movie, but still I didn't hate it just because it's a classic and I can appreciate that. But I need to do some videos on those movies. I also saw what's it called? New Year's Horror. I might be incorrect on the title, but I watched a horror movie that was from 1980 or 81, I believe. And it was a horror movie that happens around New Year's. It kind of fell apart, but still, it was just this time capsule. And I don't know if many people have seen it, but I've been meaning to record my thoughts on those movies. I just haven't yet. And I need to. But anyway, I just went on a tangent. Oh, point being, they need to make more Yuletide monster movies. I don't know why they haven't. They need to. They need to so bad. And so I was curious. I was kind of confused. So I always think about the details in these movies, like the backstories that are not getting explained as much as I would like for them to. So the witch, does she take good people and bad people alike? Because Fiona's body was still there. And I know that in the tunnel or in the basement, there was a chalk outline like on the wall, but she was found in the dumbwaiter. So I'm curious as to why the witch didn't take her to be with her other souls. Because Mal's body gets taken. And when firefighters come and check out the hotel, his body was never found. But Fiona and Jerry's were there. And so I was so, I don't know. Did Fiona just die from starvation? Like, why was she still there? I have questions. And so then I had another thought. initially I was assuming that the hotel, like there has to be some kind of a gain for the hotel to have this witch in their basement. They must be working together. They must have some kind of like symbiotic relationship. But then I thought, could they have discovered the witch after they bought the hotel? And then they keep the suite blocked off, the honeymoon suite, where that's another thing. What's the deal? So if the witch is in the basement, she only gets up there from the chute. Is that the only reason why the honeymoon suite is blocked off? There may be another reason and I might be forgetting it. But if she's in the... Is that like... Oh, I think that Mel had said that something about the way the hotel was built, that was the only access to the basement. So maybe that's why the honeymoon suite was blocked off. But I thought that maybe when they discovered the witch, they blocked everything off so that they wouldn't lose money on the business. So maybe they're not working together with the witch and the witch is just there and they're just dealing with it because they have this hotel. It's never explained. We don't know. And then also when there's a flashback to Ohm and what happened with his mom. He's watching some kind of a kids program. And then when he's up in the honeymoon suite, he sees, I'm assuming, the same program in the TV screen up there. And I wondered, was the guy that's like talking to him through the TV, was that the way that the kids' TV host looked back in the day? Or is it just distorted because of the horror of what happened with his mom that day? What's the deal with that guy? Where does that come from? Was this because, when we were like millennials, like we had some creepy like kid shows growing up. So that kid TV show host could very well have looked like that. I don't know. But either way, the image of that guy was absolutely horrifying and effective, and it went along really well with the witch in the movie. So that's pretty much it. I did think that the ending was good. I think that sometimes happy endings in horror are good, It fit this movie. And I'm very big on the ending. Oh. Oh my God, I have something in my eye. Oh my God. Oh, I think that was a lash.
Are you okay?
I just suddenly got stabbing pain in my right eyeball. And it reminded me of that. I saw this picture of, they're saying like when an eyelash falls in your eye and then you don't feel anywhere, where does it go? And there was this picture of an eyeball and then the back of the eye where like all the lost lashes go. And that was horrifying. Anyway, yeah, the ending for a movie, if I don't think that it fits, if it doesn't make sense, if it's not good, will ruin anything good about a movie that came before. So I was happy with this. I think the ending made total sense. I mentioned Long Legs earlier, and I liked that movie, but the ending of that was way too rushed. I do not like it when the pacing is not good. That's what I was talking about with this movie. It was paced really well. Like everything from beginning to end made sense, seemed to happen, when it should. It was a very well-timed movie. I hate when movies are like the first half takes forever and then they rush the second half, which like in Long Legs, I feel like the second half was like there was so much there to explore and it was just completely rushed through. So gonna do it for this one. I think there's a movie coming out next weekend, which is Mother's Day weekend. It might be called Affection. I'll just see trailers for stuff and I'll put it in my calendar, and I may or may not go see it. I don't know. We're moving in 3 weeks, so I don't know if I'll have time for another movie because things are gonna start getting down to the wire. And then of course I'm very much looking forward to Backrooms, which is coming out the last weekend in May, I believe. And so definitely gonna see that. So I'll see you then.